If I were the government of mainland China, if I were the CCP, if I were taking the command, I'm gonna attack that island for sure, because I do think like any peaceful reunification is out of the option. Taiwan is a very complex place. It has a long reach of history. If you want to get into it, I will give you a very brief version. Okay, Taiwan 101. Also for mostly Americans to know, because they have no idea like what Taiwan is, where the island is located at. Before the USA was even formed, I think before 16th, 17th century, it's an island off the coast of mainland China, I think 100 miles away. Most of the people inhabiting Taiwan were either indigenous people or ethnic Chinese who immigrated to Taiwan, but there was no official government, official administration. So around, I think it was around 1600s, 1700s, Taiwan was actually acquired by the Qing dynasty of China, right? So then it later became a province of China. Then I think it was end of the 19th century, because the Qing dynasty of China was defeated by the Japanese Empire. So that place became a Japanese colony for 50 years. After that, after Japan was defeated in the World War II, the Taiwan was given back to the Republic of China, which was the government led by the Generalissimo Chiang Kai-shek. But apparently Chiang Kai-shek lost the Chinese Civil War after 4 years. So before 1950, his Republic of China government plus all those military people, they went to Taiwan and formed the new so-called Free China and the Republic of China. So that's pretty much the Taiwan before 1990s. But then after 1990s, there was, they had their own elections, their own self-determination. So that's the Taiwan which we have right now. I think the Chinese government, especially the CCP, I think have to come to the understanding that the people of Taiwan today are not the people of Taiwan yesterday, which means 5 decades ago, if you ask a Taiwanese who they are, they're gonna say, oh, I'm a Chinese, and my government is the Republic of China. And across the Taiwan Strait is the People's Republic of China. So the only dispute they have is which regime actually represents the real China, is whether the Communist China or the Republic of China, the nationalist China. But today, the people in Taiwan, if you ask them, they're going to say, oh, I'm Taiwanese, and they are Chinese. So I don't think there's any possibility anymore after all those rounds of negotiations and the mainland China's preferential trade policies toward those Taiwan. I mean, all those efforts failed. There's no possibility for the so-called peaceful reunification anymore. So the only approach I think the CCP should do, actually two approaches, I think. First is to actually actively attack that island and do not care about the inhabitants, but take the island, its resources, and its strategic location along the first island chain, along the Pacific coast. That's first option. Second option is to leave that place alone. Because do you know what Taiwan is like? I think Taiwan versus China, that whole situation is it's a guy chasing a female. But the issue being back in the 90s, that female was young, and that female was vital, and that young guy was poor. But now that young guy become a very well-established male and well-established figure and has a bunch of resources, bunch of wealth, while that female, that lady he was chasing back in the 1990s, now it's getting old and it's getting poor, and nobody even wants that place. So I think if I were the CCP, I would either directly take that place by force or just leave them alone. Because if you leave them alone, they will come to the table, understand that they are actually nobody. Most of those KMT, those Taiwan, those ROC KMT seniors, I think they are sort of using the policy which the Bush Jr. had, which is a strategic ambiguity, right? They were oh, we are all descendants of Chinese, we are all ethnic Chinese, but we are not part of China. It's kind of funny to watch that. But if I were them, I would literally come to the realization that the policy of the strategic ambiguity is long gone. And the entire world now is at the brink of World War III. And that fine line of being part of China or not being part of China, it's getting thinner and thinner. You have to choose side. I don't think they come to realize the urgency of that issue. The old world is fading away. the new world and the new order is yet to be born, and now it is a time for monsters and for chaos. So I think it is a historical reality that some of those older and senior people, they will just be outdated by the history. That's just their destiny. I think for Taiwan, whether for Taiwan people or for the government of Taiwan, the Republic of China, they really should think this very clearly, that which side they want to be with. Because as I said, the fine line of whether being part of China or not being part of China is getting thinner and thinner. And if one day the CCP thinks that they are running out of their strategic patience, which I do think they have every reason to run out of their strategic patience, because they've been, they've been using appeasement policies for so long, yet without any tangible returns, any even goodwills from the government of Taiwan. What happens next? All those mechanized infantries, the mechanized armies, the mechanized artilleries, the mighty air force of the CCP will literally just like crush that place. If you go read the, I think it was a book by Graham Allison from 2018, his prediction about the war between China and the USA, the Chinese military already has the capacity called A2AD, the anti-access and area denial capacity. They have like all those missiles along the Chinese coast that is able to deter the American 7th Fleet, all those aircraft carrier strike groups, like at least 1,000 miles away from the coast of China. Yet, Taiwan is within the range of 100 miles from the coast of mainland China. I don't think Americans actually have the capacity to help Taiwan on that regard. What they could do is like, when the war comes, I mean, they could, send some of their C-17s or those airlifts to leave the key senior government officials from Taiwan to places like Guam or Hawaii or the US West Coast. But there's not that much other things they could do, right? And going back to the Taiwan question about democracy, like literally read a book by, I think it was by Chris Miller called Cheap War. It actually described how the industry of Taiwan developed, how the semiconductor industry of Taiwan developed. It was by the industrial policy designed by the central government of the Republic of China back in the 50s and 60s. The government provided all the funds, and they attracted all the talents back to Taiwan and built up the Taiwan semiconductor industry. That's also how the economy of Taiwan thrived back in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. But honestly, look at the economy of Taiwan right now. The figures tell you all. Back in the 90s, the GDP of Taiwan, total GDP, was around like 40% versus the mainland China. Today it's like 4%. And yet, those Taiwan people right now, every day they are saying, oh, because we are a democracy, that's why our economy is thriving. That's literally a total BS, right? I don't think they actually understand the nature of so-called democracy. Their country, their place was developed by the conscious design of the industrial policy.